Welcome to DCF Investigations. There are mysteries that haunt a family. There are mysteries that haunt a town. And then there are mysteries that haunt an entire nation. Some disappearances are marked by violence, by chaotic struggles, or by clear evidence of abduction. But the most terrifying vanishings are often the quietest. They are the ones where the timeline is precise, the movements are deliberate, and the trail simply evaporates into the gray static of a surveillance camera. Today, we are opening the file on one of the most perplexing missing persons cases in British history. We are traveling back to the autumn of 2007, to a story that begins with a gifted young mathematician, a heavy metal t-shirt, and a one-way train ticket. This is the disappearance of Andrew Gosden. To understand the magnitude of this mystery, we must first immerse ourselves in the atmosphere of the time and the place. It was September 14th, 2007. The location was Doncaster, a large market town in South Yorkshire, England. The world was on the precipice of a digital revolution, but it was not quite there yet. The first iPhone had been released in the United States just months prior, but the ubiquitous connectivity of smartphones had not yet saturated every moment of teenage life. Social media was in its infancy. For a 14-year-old boy like Andrew Gosden, life was still analog. It was defined by school routines, video games played on handheld consoles, and music listened to through wired headphones. Andrew was not your typical runaway candidate. He was 14 years old, small for his age, and possessed a brilliant mind. He was part of the Young Gifted and Talented program, a government initiative designed to nurture the top 5% of students in the country. He was a mathematician, a logical thinker, a boy who saw the world in patterns and solutions. By all accounts, he was an introvert. He was content with his own company, deeply loved by his parents, Kevin and Glenys, and close to his sister, Laura. He did not have a history of rebellion. He did not drink. He did not smoke. And he rarely socialized outside of school hours. He was a homebody who spent his evenings playing video games or reading. The Gosden household was a place of stability. There were no scream fests, no hidden traumas that investigators could find, and no signs of domestic turbulence that usually precede a teenager fleeing the nest. Andrew had a perfect attendance record at school. He was reliable. He was the kind of child who, if he were going to be 10 minutes late, would worry about letting his parents know. This character profile is essential to keep in mind because everything that happened on that Friday morning contradicts the very essence of who Andrew was known to be. The morning of Friday, September 14th, began like any other in the Gosden home. It was a school day. Andrew woke up, perhaps a bit later than usual, appearing somewhat grumpy, a mood his parents attributed to the typical teenage fatigue of a Friday morning. He put on his school uniform, a blazer and trousers, ready for another day at the Macaulay Catholic High School. The family moved through their morning rituals. Kevin and Glenys left for work, and his sister Laura left for school. Andrew was the last one left in the house. He sat on the sofa, seemingly waiting for the right moment to leave for the bus. But Andrew never went to the bus stop. Once the house was empty, Andrew did something he had never done before. He went back to his room and changed out of his school uniform. He placed his blazer and trousers over the back of a chair, folding them neatly. He dressed in his favorite clothes, a black slip-knot t-shirt and black jeans. He grabbed his black canvas bag, which was covered in patches of rock and metal bands. Inside, he packed his wallet, his keys, and his PlayStation Portable, or PSP. Notably, he did not pack a charger for the PSP. He did not pack a change of clothes. He did not take his passport, which was readily available in the house. He did not leave a note. At 8:30 in the morning, Andrew walked out of the front door. Instead of heading to school, he walked in the opposite direction. He walked to a local ATM at a garage nearby. There, he withdrew £200. This is a significant detail. Andrew had a bank account with more money in it, money he had saved from birthdays and diligent saving. He did not empty the account. He took exactly £200, leaving roughly 100 behind. If he were planning to run away forever, logic dictates he would take every penny he had. If he were meeting someone who had demanded money, perhaps 200 was the specific amount requested. Or perhaps he simply calculated that £200 was enough for a day trip to the city. After securing the cash, Andrew walked to the Doncaster railway station. He approached the ticket office window. It was here that a witness, the ticket seller, recalls a brief but haunting interaction. Andrew asked for a ticket to London King's Cross. The ticket seller asked him if he wanted a return ticket. At the time, a return ticket cost only 50 pence more than a one-way single. It was a negligible difference. Yet, Andrew explicitly refused the return ticket. He insisted on a single, one-way fare. This specific decision has plagued investigators and amateur sleuths for nearly 2 decades. Why refuse the return ticket? Was it a declaration of intent that he never planned to come back? Or was it the logical, albeit naive, decision of a 14-year-old boy who simply did not know when he would be returning? Perhaps he planned to stay with family in London, whom he had not told he was visiting. Perhaps he thought he might get a ride back. Or perhaps, in his young mind, he just wanted to save the 50 pence, not realizing the difficulty of buying a ticket later. Andrew boarded the 9:35 train to London. During the journey, a woman reported sitting near him. She described him as quiet, engrossed in his video game console. He did not seem anxious. He did not seem like a boy running from a terrible situation, nor did he seem like a boy on the verge of a mental health crisis. He looked like a teenager on an adventure. The train cut through the English countryside, carrying Andrew further and further away from the safety of his routine, toward the sprawling metropolis of London. The train arrived at King's Cross Station at 11:20 in the morning. King's Cross is one of the busiest transport hubs in the United Kingdom. It is a chaotic mix of tourists, commuters, and travelers. Even in 2007, London was one of the most surveilled cities on Earth. Cameras were everywhere. As Andrew stepped off the train, he walked into the main concourse. At 11:25 in the morning, a CCTV camera captured an image of Andrew Gosden leaving the station via the main exit. In the footage, the quality is grainy, but the figure is unmistakable. You can see his silhouette, the dark t-shirt, the bag slung over his shoulder. He looks small against the backdrop of the station. He is walking with purpose, but not in a hurry. He does not appear to be looking around for someone. He is not checking a phone because he did not have one. He simply walks out of the glass doors and into the bright daylight of London. And that is the last confirmed sighting of Andrew Gosden. He walked out of the station, turned right onto York Way, and vanished from the face of the earth. Back in Doncaster, the alarm was not raised immediately. Due to an administrative error at the school, The automated system that was supposed to call Andrew's parents to report his absence dialed the wrong number. It was not until the evening, when the family reconvened for dinner, that the terrifying reality set in. The parents came home. Laura came home. Andrew was not there. They assumed he was in his room, or perhaps playing video games in the basement extension. But the house was silent. They found his uniform on the chair. They found his bag missing. Panic began to set in. They called his friends. No one had seen him. They called the school. The school confirmed he had not been there all day. By 7 in the evening, the police were called. Initially, the police response was standard for a missing teenager. They assumed, as they often do, that he had gone off with friends or was blowing off steam and would return when he was hungry. But the Gosden family knew this was wrong. This was not Andrew. Andrew did not rebel. Andrew did not wander. As the hours turned into days, the investigation began to ramp up, but it was plagued by critical delays that may have cost Andrew his chance of being found. The most devastating failure involved the CCTV footage. The Gosden family, desperate for answers, surmised that Andrew might have gone to London because his grandmother lived there, although not close to King's Cross. They urged police to check the train station footage. However, the request for the CCTV from King's Cross was not prioritized. It took 27 days for the police to formally request and review the footage from the station and the surrounding areas. By the time they did, the trail had gone cold in the most literal sense. Most private businesses and street cameras in London only held their recording tapes for nearly a month before recording over them. Had the police pulled the footage immediately, they might have tracked Andrew's movements down York Way. They might have seen if he got into a car, if he met a person, or if he entered a building. But because of that 27-day gap, the digital memory of Andrew's path was overwritten. We have that one image of him leaving the station, and then nothing. Investigators turned the Gosden house upside down. They were looking for the secret life of Andrew Gosden. Surely, a boy does not just wake up and travel 200 miles without a catalyst. They seized the family computer. They brought in forensic digital experts to scour the hard drive. They were looking for chat logs, emails, secret social media accounts, anything that would indicate he had been groomed. In 2007, the internet was a wilder place, filled with chat rooms and forums. Parents were terrified of the concept of stranger danger online. The police were convinced they would find a digital trail leading to a predator. But they found nothing. Absolutely nothing. Andrew did not have an email address that his parents didn't know about. He didn't have a Facebook or MySpace account. His browser history revealed nothing sinister. He used the computer for homework and to look up video game cheats. There was no evidence he had been talking to anyone. This lack of digital footprint is one of the most baffling aspects of the case. If he was meeting someone, how did he communicate with them? Did he have a secret burner phone? There is no evidence of him ever buying one or owning one. Did he use computers at the school or the public library? Checks of those systems also turned up nothing. Did he communicate via the mail? Did he meet someone in person in Doncaster who convinced him to come to London? Without a digital lead, the police had to rely on physical evidence and theories. The first and most prominent theory was that Andrew went to London to attend a concert. He was a passionate fan of heavy metal and rock music. He loved bands like Slipknot, Muse, and Funeral for a Friend. Investigators looked at the gig listings for London on the night of September 14, 2007. There were concerts that night. The band 30 Seconds to Mars was playing at the Brixton Academy. The band Sixth was playing a farewell show at the Carling Academy in Islington, which is within walking distance of King's Cross. Him was playing at another venue. It seemed like a plausible theory. A 14-year-old boy, obsessed with music, skips school to see a band he loves. But this theory has holes. None of his favorite bands were playing that specific night. Sixth was a possibility, but he wasn't a known superfan. Furthermore, if he went for a concert, why did he arrive at 11:20 in the morning? Doors for a gig wouldn't open until 7 in the evening. What was he planning to do for 8 hours alone in London? And why did he not bring a change of clothes or a jacket for the cold evening? Despite these inconsistencies, the concert theory remains a strong possibility. Perhaps he intended to buy a ticket from a scalper outside the venue. Perhaps he just wanted to be in the atmosphere. But if he went to a concert, surely someone would have seen him. A 14-year-old boy alone at a metal show stands out. Yet, despite widespread appeals to the fan bases of these bands, no one came forward with a confirmed sighting. As the months dragged on, the case grew colder. The Gosden family lived in a state of suspended animation. They kept Andrew's room exactly as he left it. They agonized over the what-ifs. Kevin Gosden, Andrew's father, has spoken openly about the toll this took on his mental health. The not knowing is a specific kind of torture. It is a grief that cannot settle because there is no body, no funeral, no finality. Over the years, there have been tantalizing leads that promised a breakthrough only to dissolve into mist. A month after the disappearance, a witness came forward claiming they saw Andrew in a Pizza Hut in Oxford Street on the day he vanished. The witness was credible, but by the time the report was investigated, the CCTV from the restaurant was gone. Another sighting occurred a year later, in 2008. A man reported seeing a boy resembling Andrew at a police station in Leominster. The boy was sitting in the waiting area late at night. The witness claimed he tried to speak to the boy, but the boy remained silent. Before the police could interact with him, the boy left. Was this Andrew? Andrew had a distinctive physical trait, a double ridge on his right ear. It is a unique marker. But without a photograph or video of this Leominster boy, it is impossible to know. Then there were the darker theories. The theory that Andrew was abducted. The theory that he was a victim of a serial predator. London in 2007 was a dangerous place for a vulnerable, naive teenager. If Andrew wandered the streets for hours, he would have been a prime target. He had money in his pocket, but no street smarts. Did someone spot him? Did someone offer him a ride, a tour, a place to stay? The most chilling aspect of the abduction theory is the silence. Usually, when a child is taken, there is a body found eventually. There's clothing found. There's a confession years later. But in Andrew's case, the earth seemed to swallow him whole. There has been no activity on his bank account since that withdrawal in Doncaster. His passport has never been used. His National Health Service number has never been flagged at a doctor's office or hospital. He simply ceased to exist on paper. In late 2021, nearly 14 years after Andrew walked out of King's Cross, the case exploded back into the headlines. The police announced they had arrested 2 men. A 45-year-old man was arrested on suspicion of kidnapping and human trafficking. A 38-year-old man was arrested on suspicion of human trafficking. The arrests were linked to the discovery of indecipherable images on electronic devices. For a moment, the world held its breath. It seemed that the puzzle pieces were finally coming together. The theory of an online grooming ring or trafficking network seemed to be validated. The Gosden family was notified. They prepared themselves for the worst, or perhaps for the truth. The investigation into these men was intense. Devices were seized, lives were scrutinized. But then, in September 2023, the update came that crushed all hope. The police announced that the two men had been released with no further action. The evidence was insufficient. The link to Andrew could not be definitively proven. The men were cleared of involvement in his disappearance. We were back to square one. The roller coaster of hope and despair had completed another loop, leaving the family more exhausted than before. So, where does that leave us today? We are left with a collection of facts that refuse to form a coherent picture. We have the timeline, the deception of the morning routine, the withdrawal of £200, the refusal of the return ticket, the arrival at King's Cross at 11:20. We have the profile, a brilliant, home-loving boy with no history of running away and no digital footprint. We have the void, no sightings confirmed by CCTV after he left the station, no body, no weapon, no crime scene. We must consider the possibility that Andrew started a new life. Is it possible for a 14-year-old to survive in London alone? To find work off the books? To grow up, change his appearance, and live among us as a ghost? It seems impossible in the modern age of biometric data and digital surveillance. Yet adults disappear intentionally all the time. But a child? Without help? It defies logic. We must consider the possibility of a tragic accident. Did he fall into the Thames? Did he wander into a construction site? If so, why has no trace ever been found? And we must consider the most likely and most painful reality: that Andrew met with foul play very shortly after leaving King's Cross, that he crossed paths with a predator who saw an opportunity in a lone boy with a backpack. The legacy of Andrew Gosden's disappearance is profound. It changed the way missing persons cases are handled in the UK. It highlighted the critical importance of immediate CCTV retrieval. It served as a wake-up call to parents about the secret lives their children might lead, even if those lives aren't digital. Andrew's face has appeared on billboards across Britain. The band Muse has used footage of him in their appeals. His father has walked the same route Andrew took, retracing those steps, looking for a clue that was missed. The case remains open. The files are not dusty. They are active. Police continue to appeal for information. They urge the public to look at the age-progressed photos of what Andrew might look like today. A man in his early 30s, likely wearing glasses, with that distinctive double ridge on his right ear. This case is a puzzle with missing pieces. But someone, somewhere, holds the key. Someone knows why he went to London. Someone knows what happened after he walked out of those glass doors. Secrets are heavy burdens, and over time, they become harder to carry. As we close this file, we are left with the haunting image of a boy walking into the sunlight, disappearing into the crowd, leaving a silence that has lasted for nearly 2 decades. Thank you for joining us on DCF Investigations. This case relies on memory, on conscience, and on the hope that the truth will eventually surface. If you have any theory, no matter how small, Or if you were in London on that day in 2007, we want to hear from you. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe Andrew planned to disappear? Or was he a victim of a crime of opportunity? Until next time, stay observant and stay safe.